While reflecting on what makes up New Zealand's design identity, I recognise that I'm going through a personal process of exploration, discovery and definition of my own design practice and identity. I studied industrial design at Victoria University of Wellington, but found myself building things that are outside of what would typically be considered traditional industrial design works, and even outside of what some would consider design. My interest didn't only lie in physical form giving, but also in thinking about the dynamic relationships and interactions between people, various life forms, and man-made things. While some of the work that I did might sit within traditions that you find overseas, for example, new media art traditions in the USA and Europe, interaction design that would be associated with Silicon Valley, and the device art tradition that comes from Japan, it's uncommon to find people or studios doing this kind of work in New Zealand, and even harder trying to identify a pattern or define a New Zealand identity for this kind of work. Creating this work from a place that didn't have established traditions, it often felt like I was building on my practice organically, as one project would inform the next, and I often had little idea of how to frame or contextualize the work, but found that as the work was created, it would start to find its own context and audience organically. The first of these explorations is Pinocchio, created in collaboration with Shan Zhao, a fellow student at the time. It's an animated desk lamp based on the iconic design of the Anglepoise lamp, which was designed by George Carwadine in 1932. This is what Pinocchio sees, just briefly. This is the view that he sees when he's tracking faces. This is what the computer thinks his body's doing, which isn't always what his body's doing. That's an early prototype. And this video is actually shot by me in New Zealand when Pinocchio was on exhibition in Russia, and it was quite interesting that I could take control of the lamp and also see what he was seeing without the audience or actually the gallery attendants or the curators knowing. So while form was important for us, Shan and I, so was the subtlety of the interaction and the animation. And we wanted to use Pinocchio's physical form to enable non-verbal communication as much as possible. So how does a lamp communicate with its body? We also considered the personality of this desk lamp, Pinocchio. I think he's earnest but very naive. So this is Pinocchio switching himself back on when someone turns him off. So he kind of looks at his switch, and then his light's still not on until he sneezes, and then the light comes back on. This next behavior is what he does when he doesn't see a face for some time and he wants to go to sleep. And finally, when he overheats and needs to turn himself off for an extended period of time.
The nail goes pretty cold.
So he turns himself off. but then he keeps his head over his switch so that if someone is to communicate to a human that he can't be switched on until he's cooled down sufficiently. And he lifts up and he's ready to be always able to be turned on again. This is the above marine, made for a special fish named Jose. Jose learned how to jump out of the water and get food off of someone's finger, and was quite a charismatic little fish. The above marine is a vessel which encourages people to ask different questions about small fish. Does he know what he's doing? What's his name? Where does he come from? Where's he going? And I think it acts like a magnifying glass. Suddenly his movements are magnified, and people start assigning personality to him, even though he's the same fish. So after I graduated from university, I started working for the Auckland-based design studio, Old Group, who I found were also exploring alternative expressions of design in a New Zealand context. I was asked to join them working on a project which they conceived called POP. POP, in a broad sense, is a set of design interventions designed to change the atmosphere of a city. I'll just read the manifesto from the website. David, if you're still here, you'll have to excuse the grandiose language. I agree with what you said about Wild West shantytowns, but in this particular instance, we needed a way to get Aucklanders very excited very quickly about a particular design. So the website says, POP's mission is to create happenings, things, spectacles, ideas, performances, connections, and experiences in your neighborhood. POP exists to make fun, unite strangers, fuse creativity, and create an instant community on every street corner. Some of these projects are annual, some monthly, others infrequent and any time. All are designed to create a crowd and for you to enjoy the moment. So POP is this idea, but it's also a visual language. It's a typeface. And we start applying it to projects and objects. So what does a POP ping pong paddle look like? What is a POP ping pong ball? What is a POP ping pong table? What does a POP ping pong table sound like? So for anyone who didn't hear it, one side says ping, one side says pong. When someone loses, it goes pong, 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 or ping, ping, ping. And when you hit any of the circles on the table, it says pop. So we made 4 of these tables, and we put them around Auckland City in different locations for 3 weeks at a time, and watched who turned up. As an experience, I think the tables function in a number of ways. Whether you're a player or a spectator, it changes your everyday experience. It also changes people's experience of ping pong purely through a simple sound interaction, and by doing that you've designed a new memory of ping pong. It's distinct from all the other times that you've played ping pong, this one time that you found this weird table in the city. At its best, it influences social interactions by creating an experience between two people who otherwise wouldn't have met, and there were people that were manning the tables and encouraging people to play on them as well. And it also creates safer environments. You can create crowds in places that might have otherwise been unoccupied. And there was one location in particular where drug dealers were known to deal to children, I think while the tables were there, it made it harder for them to operate. It's harder for a drug dealer to deal drugs when there are people running around playing ping pong. So each of the works I've shown also functions differently with different audiences, and each work found its own place where it was best contextualized. So the Above Marine is strongest in video form, and it made numerous television appearances, including the Discovery Channel and National Geographic. Excuse me. And it also received hundreds of thousands of views online. Pinocchio, I think, is most effective in physical form, but in a more intimate setting like a gallery or a museum, and it did make appearances around the world, and there's one actually currently in Greece, in Athens. And finally, ping pong is most effective in real life and in public spaces, and like I said, we put them around Auckland, and a total of 40,000 people turned up to play on these ping pong tables. So I moved to New Zealand from South Africa when I was 12, which is a particularly awkward age for an adolescent to move to a new place. And I realized looking back at a lot of this work that while it might be hard to see an expression of New Zealand in this work, it is certainly a reflection of my own personal experience, even if I wasn't fully aware of it at the time that I was making it, of finding my way into a new place and into a new country. And also finding my way into design and my own design identity. So what does New Zealand interaction and experience design look like? What unique aesthetic and sensory experiences does it afford? I think doing makes culture, and you can't define without doing. I can't say what kind of designer I am before I make in whatever form it takes. And I think New Zealand's design identity is developing through the same process. Thank you.